I think everybody's here and settled. And Kathy, you'll keep an eye out for people who are arriving. Thank you. So once again, I'm Trudy. I'm the guiding teacher here at InsightLA, and really happy to sit with you all on Sunday mornings and welcome you from, people from all over. And this morning, for those of you who are new, like Shiloh, we do about a half an hour of meditation, about the same amount where I offer some teachings, and then about sort of in thirds, and then the same amount for some back and forth, some Q&R, some questions and reflections, and that's and then afterwards we do end at 12:30, and then there's a break, and then there's a time where if you want to get to know some of the people and be in a much smaller group, we have some breakout rooms where you can meet with, I don't know how many people it is, maybe 4 or 5, and you have a break so you can get your lunch and just have lunch with a few people and get to know them. And this was a solution to some people were just really missing the connection. I mean, we're all missing the connection of being in person together in a space, and it was live streamed, so people could also be part of it from around the world. But given the pandemic that is obviously not subsiding, to the contrary, I was going to say we're stuck with this. We're making the best of this for the time being and offering this larger group till 12:30, and then a chance to be in smaller groups together for a different kind of sharing. And I guess those start maybe 12:40, something like that. So the meditation that I want to lead this morning, it's a classic meditation from early Buddhism tradition, early Buddhist tradition, a samatha Vipassana meditation. And the shamatha piece refers to the way that we bring our mind into the present moment and focus and try to, let go of distractions and come back to whatever the subject of meditation is. And that's the training of the mind to be more consistently present with experience. And the Vipassana piece is the insight piece of insight meditation, where we begin to observe the characteristics or the patterns of experience as our experiences arise and pass away, and we begin to notice their true nature, that they really are, they arise, they pass away, they don't stay, they change, they aren't governed, they aren't controlled by what we want. We have unpleasant experiences that we wouldn't choose to have, pleasant experiences that we're having disappear. We begin to see these characteristics of existence, and that's the insight piece. So finding your comfortable sitting posture where you can sit for about a half hour and closing your eyes if you're comfortable doing that, or just lowering your gaze. For some people, most people are going to be sitting up. Some people are lying down, a few who have, body issues but if you don't have pain that really makes it possible for you to meditate by lying down, I encourage you to sit up or to stand, just because unless you're used to lying down, it's really hard to stay awake. Okay, so just sitting. I will speak as though everyone is sitting. I know that some of you are lying down. Tuck your chin in just slightly, which is a signal to the body to stay present with the body. When the chin is tilted up, we tend to go into more dreamy states of mind. So just tucking the chin slightly. And the head, you can pretend or imagine that the head is being kind of suspended, drawn up from the ceiling. So the head rises a little bit. And then the whole body relaxes. And begin by offering a wish. May I and all beings, all living beings, be free from suffering. May I and all living beings experience happiness and peace. And this is why I meditate. And you can begin by listening to the sounds of life around you. Just listening without commenting, bare listening to sound. And as you feel more comfortable being present, just take a deep breath and imagine as you breathe in that you're refreshing every single cell of your body, filling the cell with oxygen. And as you breathe out, relaxing any tension in the body. And you can do that a couple more times, just breathing in, nourishing every cell of your being. Breathing out, settling, calming down. And then bringing attention to the breath and feel the breath in the nostrils first. Feel it in every detail. Like sometimes you can even feel the hairs in the nostrils. Inside your nose, the hairs there. You can feel the air entering and leaving your nose as you breathe comfortably. Feeling the air in the tip and the middle and the root of the nose. And feeling how the breath whirls around inside the body. Staying firmly with these movements of the breath. And when the mind wanders away to memories of the past or dreams of the future, come right back and just let yourself be completely absorbed in the breath, in this process of breathing. reading the breath like a really interesting book, completely absorbed in the experience. Breathe in a way that feels comfortable to you. Just breathing and feeling how the breath is affecting your experience of being present here. And bring attention to your head and feel the head. Feeling your head and noticing how the breath, how breathing affects the feeling of the head. Breathing in, tension dissolves. And breathing out, tension relaxing completely. And noticing when the brain feels nice and relaxed, just spreading this attention through the whole head, the neck and shoulders, all relaxing. Now feeling your arms, noticing how the breath affects the sensations in the arms and hands. Breathing in, your arms relax and tension dissolves. Breathing out, your arms relax even deeper. And the tension relaxes completely. Now bringing attention to the area of the chest and belly, the whole front of the body. And noticing again how the breath affects the sensations in the front of the body. Breathing in, the whole front of the body relaxes and tension dissolves. Breathing out, the front of the body relaxes even more, and all tension evaporates. And then feeling the back of the body, the back, upper, middle, lower, buttocks, the whole back of the body. And seeing how the breath, breathing, is affecting sensations in the back of the body. And doing this brings understanding of how consciousness, the body, and the breath interact. The awareness or consciousness that notices and knows, the breath that moves in and out of the body, the sensations in the body. And bring attention to the legs and feet, the hips, the genitals, the whole area between the legs, and all the way down to the ankles, heels, toes. Breathing in, tension dissolves. Breathing out, tension vanishes completely. Comfortably breathing with the whole body. The whole body relaxing ever more deeply. Tension releasing and vanishing. Noticing any pleasant or unpleasant feelings, sensations in the body or the mind. Allowing your attention to settle completely onto the breath. And noticing as you relax, the breath may be slowing down, may become very shallow, subtle, and sometimes even disappearing. And this is no cause for worry. Simply a sign of profound relaxation. If thoughts or creations are arising in the mind, again, noticing, identifying, recognizing. Sometimes you can put a light mental note or label, thinking, thinking. And always returning to the sensations of the breath, gently, the breath more and more refined. And noticing if one of our 5 physical senses may be distracting. Or if consciousness, if the attention is restlessly jumping from thing to thing. Again, this is no problem. It's just what happens. And we can know that every thought, every emotion, every feeling, sensation, smell, touch, taste, sight doesn't stay. We can clearly see, clearly seeing whatever arises passes away. And whatever may be disturbing you, if a sound disturbs you, immediately knowing this sound is impermanent. It will come to an end. And the reaction to any disturbance itself is impermanent and will come to an end. If physical discomfort or any feelings are arising, noticing, seeing these feelings are arising by themselves. Whether pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Arising and passing. It all changes as we sit still. Simply sitting still and watching how it all changes. Just bringing the mind back to clearly seeing the impermanence of all that arises in experience. And whenever the attention wanders, it's coming back to this seeing, this knowing, this direct experience of the truth happening. Sitting centered and still while the world around us dances and plays. While the world within us, creations, thoughts, feelings, emotions, the whole world within us, the play of the mind dancing, arising, passing, seeing and knowing clearly that none of what is happening is a self, has a self, or belongs to a self. Ding. Ran, you have your bell? Well, that was the bell, everybody. Just gently opening your eyes and stretching your body. Thank you. That's beautiful. Thank you. My bell got packed and I don't know where it is right now, but it's not here. Ran has a nice bell. So when we're meditating like this, the mind will get tired. And so just when that happens, kind of coming back to just the relaxing, the settling, the calming, the releasing of tension. This is really good thing to do because we can just stay settled peacefully. Maybe it's just a few moments before another distraction arises. But this is how we work on cultivating wisdom, insight, wisdom in our practice, cultivating peacefulness and really the blessing of being able to relax and be at peace enough to see the impermanence, the selflessness of all experience that's happening. And I think at the beginning, we dedicate the merit, the goodness of our practice at the end of our time together. But I think at the beginning too, it's really good to remind ourselves why we're meditating in the first place. We're meditating to free our hearts. And as we free our hearts, compassion arises, we naturally wish for the hearts of others to also be free. We've been on a pretty big roller coaster this past week, especially if we count the week from, Saturday to Saturday. And I just want to say, if you ever think, as sometimes it occurs to me at age 75, if you ever think you're too old to do something, Look at Joe Biden at age 77, striding out onto the stage to take on what has to be one of the hugest jobs in the whole wide world. I have found this, independent of politics, just in terms of our sense of who we are and the limitations that we build in to who we are, just from our, absorbing the conventions of the environment around us and the reality too of growing older. But boy, that has really inspired me to double check the assumptions that I have about what it means to be growing older. But that's not really what I want to talk about with you today. I was just thinking about it. I don't know, somebody said to me, well, aren't you retired? And it was a cousin. And I thought, I guess maybe I should be. And then I remember, no, that's a thought too. That's just a fabrication in the mind, right? It's just, let me see where I am here. So what we just did together is the Buddha taught 3 foundations of the practice, Sila, Samadhi, and Prajna in Sanskrit, or Dana, Sila, and Bhavana, especially is another triad that you can look at. But the word here that I'm focusing on today is Bhavana, which means development or cultivation. And it is really the word for meditation itself. And Bhavana, I love this word because it's not about achievement or attainment. It's about cultivating, developing. It's a progress word, progression kind of word. And we can see in our lives whether we're headed for the ultimate liberation of Nibbana, or we just want to have a little bit of peace and quiet, in our minds and hearts. Whatever the aspiration, if we practice, if we cultivate, if we practice being present, that's the most important thing, being present moment to moment. And formal meditation practice, like what we just did, really helps us then be present in our everyday life. The more we do this, the more we definitely see that we are less and less reactive, that there's less suffering. And as we bring more awareness to noticing the places where we get stuck, either, wanting what we don't have, not wanting what we do have. What are the 4 things, the 4 places the Buddha said we really get stuck in suffering? Wanting what we don't have, not wanting what we do have. Longing for those we've lost or aren't near. And then not wanting to be near those we are near. Those are the kinds of things that we have a lot of reactivity to. And one thing I love about meditation is that when something, a reaction comes up and disturbs and bothers us, yes, it's impermanent, and knowing that really helps. But the reaction is also impermanent, and knowing that really helps. And so this awareness, while it might not, lead us to total liberation anytime really fast, it allows our present lives to be more joyful and peaceful, our relationships with others to be more skillful and kind. And this partial freedom that we cultivate through this bhavana will eventually lead to total freedom. We can keep at it. It's really inevitable. So today I was thinking a lot about tomorrow, but I'm present today while I'm thinking about tomorrow, where Jack and I are really privileged to have a conversation with Tristan Harris. It's tomorrow at 4:30, and it'll be recorded if you can't make it. I think that's the time, but Kathy, maybe you can put that in the chat, what the actual time is. And I met Tristan Harris years ago when Jack and I were teaching at a Wisdom 2.0 conference. And my friend, John Kabat-Zinn, who was a childhood friend of mine, I saw him sitting with Tristan, and I went over to the table to join them. And then John had to get up and leave. And I was sort of sitting with this guy, I didn't know who he was, seemed nice. And we started talking. And he was a design engineer at Google and became alarmed by what he saw was the business model of just basically capturing more and more of our attention. You've probably heard about his work by now. But at that time, people were not listening to him, and he didn't really have a platform. He was kind of a lone voice crying out in the wilderness. And I'm really happy to say that over the last 5 years, he's developed a nonprofit, the Center for Humane Technology. He did have a website and a nonprofit, but it didn't have that name. I forget what it was called, but anyway, the Center for Humane Technology, and he has testified multiple times in Congress, and people are listening because what he's talking about is the way that social media, and some of you may have seen the documentary that I talked about earlier about the social dilemma, it's called, and it's on Netflix. And I think it's really important because it's really talking about the role that our technology plays in the division and polarization of our country. And, we've had an election, it unfolded peacefully, which was our fervent wish. It unfolded peacefully. We're hearing from all the election officials that it was the smoothest and best ever, in spite of the pandemic, which is such a tribute to all the people who worked on that. And if any of you worked at the polls, thank you. Really a tribute to that. At the same time, there are 7 million people who voted for a different president. And in years past, that wouldn't be such a big deal. Yes, you get disappointed. And I remember I didn't want President Bush to be elected. And I remember being so upset when he was, but it's just much, much, much more intense now for all the reasons that we know. And when I think about what the Buddha taught, which I try to remember as best I can, because those teachings are so sane and so rational and so logical and also so profound and all-encompassing. One of the things that the Buddha was really clear on for everybody, lay people, is these 5 mindfulness trainings of not killing, stealing, using your sexuality in any kind of abusive way, lying, getting addicted to intoxicants, things like that. But he also talked about, when he talked about the training of not lying, he talked about wise speech. What is true to say at any given moment, what is helpful to say at any given moment, and what is a kindness to say. And this emphasis on wise speech feels so important right now in this age of misinformation. And the media having been journalists learn how to do wise speech. They learn how to report on what's happening as mindfully and honestly and clearly as possible, with as little bias as possible. They learn this, and yet there's been so much doubt and aspersion cast on this work, combined with the ability through technology to create not just fake news and misinformation, but increasingly AI can create, videos and faces, human faces, that it could duplicate my face and make it look better than any CGI, that I don't know, Martin Scorsese spent millions of dollars on in 2015, and it still doesn't look quite right, in The Irishman. I was listening to a podcast with Nina Schick, who wrote a book called The Lips, I'm not sure, but she's writing about all of this. And it's very interesting to me because our whole bhavana, our whole meditation practice, our mindfulness practice is about directly experiencing the truth of the moment and holding that knowing, that awareness of what we are directly experiencing in each moment, just bringing the mind back to that knowing, to that seeing. And it feels, for me, so much more essential and grounding than ever before when we're awash in, it seems like more and more illusion, not just delusion. Delusion being defined as thinking things are permanent when they're not, thinking things are personal when they're not, like what comes up when we're sitting. It's not personal. We didn't ask for it mostly. And I don't know about you, but I know, at least in the beginning of my practice, so much of what came up, I found in a journal. Didn't really keep journals in a regular way, but I found an old one from the 70s when I was really starting my intensive meditation practice. And I was talking about how, 99% of my thoughts were all about me. You might also be able to relate to that. Anyway, we don't have an ethical framework for the development of AI or other technologies yet. And so we don't have the values of mindfulness and compassion and the practices of paying attention as an act of love and caring. This doesn't, we don't have this as a foundation for the development of actually more than just technology. And I think what we can do together, and why I feel it's so important for us to be having this conversation tomorrow, what we can do together as global citizens is to be aware, it's our responsibility to learn, to see, to be educated, and to do whatever we can to bring our lives, our things that we do, in line with, universal human values, which is really what we're teaching: mindfulness, compassion, love, joy, equanimity. These are universal values. And so we, besides just individually being careful to modulate our speech and notice what we're saying, what we're hearing, we can collectively, I think, also raise our voices and ask for there to be some ethical guidelines, and it's compelling because this is all happening really fast. It's really compelling for humanity. It's happening really fast, and it has to do with all the issues, in our world of nuclear safety and money, and first and foremost, climate change. So just looking at together, what is our relationship to all of this? And, if we could change it, how would we change it? But before even thinking about changing it, just being aware of it, educating ourselves. Years ago, my brother, who just couldn't afford to live in this country, and I couldn't support him enough to enable his life here, emigrated to Ecuador. It was mostly for economic reasons, but also because he loved then President Correa, who had sheltered Julian Assange. And he thought, this is the country for me. And he researched, and he found this teeny little dusty village in the Andes. It was very mysterious to me. He found this place. I helped him go visit this place. He was in a 9-hour bus ride through the mountains. Ecuador is a very mountainous country. And he just had this epiphany before he even got there, that he was going home, and this is where he was meant to be. And in fact, he has lived there now for 6 or 7 years. peacefully and much better than he was living here in the US for lots of reasons having to do with a disability he has and so forth. But I've been so filled with admiration for him to have had the strength to see what he needed, to find it, and the courage to go to some brand new place. Now he speaks Spanish, but he didn't when he went. And I tell you this story because through him and having visited him actually only a couple times, Jack and I were scheduled to go in April, but of course the pandemic happened and we couldn't. Try to go every couple years. I don't know when we'll be able to see him again, but through the visits to him, I saw that in this tiny country, there is a very educated populace. They follow what the government is doing. They take to the streets if they don't like it. Well, we do that too, but they're informed, and they are informed in a way that I feel it's been hard to be informed in our country. And maybe when I get to go back to Ecuador, I will see a few years will have passed, and maybe it's different there too because of people being more fastened to their technology. But we don't, anyway, Tristan's going to talk about the technology piece tomorrow, and I hope you will come, because Bhavana, this level of knowing as deeply as we can what it's like to be alive, conscious, to be a human being, to be born in this life, knowing as deeply as we can that when we connect to our own hearts, harming others becomes unthinkable. It's really out of the question. And we can refine that. For me, mosquitoes is definitely a frontier. But that level of knowing our deepest connection, what Thich Nhat Hanh called our interbeing, this is wisdom. This is insight. It's not the knowing of the intellect. It's the knowing that we feel in our bodies, that we come to through cultivating presence, through cultivating our ability to focus, concentration, samadhi, sila, samadhi, prajna. That's what I'm talking about. Sila is our ethical behavior, our becoming informed about what's happening. Samadhi is our bhavana, our meditation. And prajna is the insight or wisdom that arises from our practice. And, we have to let it develop. It takes as long as it takes. As Suzuki Roshi had this beautiful calligraphy in my friend Yvonne Rand's Zendo, and it said, it takes as long as it takes. We can't pry a bud open to get to a flower. It just ruins the flower. The bud is the full flower, and we need to allow it to unfold. So we can trust that our awakened being is here. It's already here. And we're offering, we're watering, we're cultivating this bud or this seed of our awakening. We're cultivating it with the nutrients of our presence, of living aligned with our values, our sila. And this is really what I wanted. It's very classical teaching that I wanted to focus on today, and how through your meditation, you've already experienced the wisdom and insight piece of what we call the 3 marks of existence, these 3 characteristics that mark every dimension of our lives. And they are impermanence, which we saw, the experience arises, passes away, impermanence, and how trying to cling to things, to make them happen, to control them, it just doesn't work. It's unsatisfactory. It doesn't bring happiness. It leads to suffering. And we see how none of this is really personal. it's not done by a self. It doesn't belong to a self. My whatever distraction or reactivity or whatever I get caught in, that's not something that I can have to claim as who I am. It doesn't, none of that has a self, none of that is a self. And it's not all of who I am, even if it's what I'm experiencing in the moment. And that's what we mean by non-self. So this is a lot of insight and wisdom for one morning. And I want to now open up to you for any questions you may have from your own practice of meditation, your own bhavana, or any reflections that you might have from your life, or doesn't have to be from the teaching this morning. It can be from just what's happening with you. Just, you can raise your hand in the participant down at the bottom of your screen. You can raise your hand, and then Kathy will call on you, unmute you. You'll unmute yourself, or Kathy unmutes you. Not sure how that works. Do you unmute people, or do they unmute themselves, Kathy?
Usually I have them, they unmute themselves unless they have any trouble with it.
Yeah, so if you want to connect, raise your hand, and Kathy will call on you, and then please unmute yourself.
Will, go ahead and unmute yourself.
That would be me. Let me see if I can get back to this. I'm really Clark, but I guess it says Will. So are you hearing me?
I hear you, and I see that you are indeed Clark.
I see. I'm on my phone. My laptop for some reason died, so I've never kind of done this.
Really clearly.
Oh, right. So it's just odd because I don't get to see my Brady Bunch cubes of everybody. It's just you and me, Trudy. That's it. Listen, I just had really, they were just two teaching points that you had gone through that I kind of missed a little bit. And this has been a really rich experience. Yeah. And so the last thing you were just talking about is the three elements that were experienced just by doing meditation. One was impermanence, and I don't know that I got the other two, or I wasn't telling you.
Yeah, one is impermanence. Well, in the traditional language, you would say anicca, anatta, and dukkha, which translate as impermanence, non-self, and suffering. Suffering is just, what happens when we cling to any experience, when we get stuck on things or react to things. I mean, I don't have to describe what suffering is. It's not saying all life is suffering. It's saying life has these three characteristics, and experience, you can see it in your own experience, what leads to suffering, what leads to happiness, the changingness of things, which when things are going wrong, it's a great relief, that teaching. When things are like all perfect, we don't like to hear so much about impermanence. I love my life. I don't want to hear that it's going to stop ever. You see, like that. And then the selflessness is the idea that I could control that. Look, my life is really good right now, even with the pandemic. I'm blessed because I'm living with somebody I really love. And so I choose to have it stay like this. This is good. Even though I'm 75, I'm still, what do they call you? They start, when you're active at this age, they start to call you spry. Even though I'm spry, do you know what I mean? This is good. I don't want to get any less spry. Let's just keep it right here.
You and Joe.
But you see, that is, if I could control that, but I can't. And that's the selflessness piece. Does that make sense?
Yes. And
govern what happens.
Right. So, as you know, from months now, I'm in the middle of family drama of, experience with our son. And those three elements applied to these kind of high drama moments are really amazing. They're, on the one hand, they're really helpful to say, this is impermanent. Both the pain that's going on is impermanent. Each of our lives in our family are impermanent. And so worst case scenario, if somebody's going to leave us, they were going to leave us anyway. It's impermanent. So there's some usefulness with all of that. Otherwise, it's panic. But what's also interesting is there's part of me that just keeps saying, but I'm here now, living now, and I don't want to give up my full experience of life. The dilemma is that my full experience of life, if I just throw open the doors and go, let's have it all, it's filled with agony and pain right now in so many ways. And it's this weird dilemma of how much do I want to curate my life rather than just, it's not black and white. That's my confusion. It's like I'm trying to curate it. And then at times I'm kind of going, look, you're focusing too much on it's impermanent. Who cares? It all goes. On the other hand, it's like, no, this is a fucking tragedy you're in. So it's a weird mix of what we do with our lives to pick the path through the immediate tragedy and the meaning of life all at the same time.
I think that's really true. And what you're expressing is beautiful, Clark, because you're really talking about, the two dimensions of our experience. One is that loving, spacious, vast perspective that you can tune into, which doesn't change. That having a son who is struggling to survive is the worst pain a parent can have unless he doesn't. And then that's even worse. Do you know what I'm saying? Like that. And both are true. Both are true. The tears are tears of love. The caring and compassion and all of those feelings, they are love. And the more intense the feelings, the more attribute it is to the depth of your love. And holding both, what else can you do? I don't know what else. To me, the ability to hold both in your consciousness that you're describing, that's a fruit of your practice.
Yeah, it really is.
It can only be nightmare if you can't ever touch to the, more expanded truth.
Yeah. No, it's been an absolute blessing. It's just a bizarre experience to go through such intensity and have to keep stepping back and going, but I'm so blessed, and I am, but holy crap, a lot of intensity. So anyway, these three were really helpful today. So thank you.
Thank you. Holy crap meditation.
Thank you, Clark. Much love.
Yeah.
Diana, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi. Thank you, Trudy, for the meditation and the talk. I just wanted to make a comment about the meditation. I really, really appreciated sort of the end of it where you were talking about keeping still while the world dances. And I was extremely restless all morning, even during the meditation. And as you guided us through that, I just felt myself become still in the middle. And then I loved how it sort of started from the outside world and then continued to the inside world that we have and that stillness. And I just really appreciate that so much. And I will think of that at other times when I'm restless, because I think that was so helpful. So thank you.
Yeah, and these sessions are recorded too, Diana. So if you ever want to come back to that meditation, just to remind yourself, you can do that. InsightLA has a YouTube channel where every Sunday is posted. I don't know how much time it takes. Maybe they're posted right away. I actually wish I did know that, but I don't. Do you know that, Kathy? But they are posted and you can find them. But that is
pretty quickly. They are posted pretty quickly within a day.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So
that's great. Yay, team. But the thing was just saying is that is a classic Vipassana meditation where you look at the interaction between mind and matter, the body and the consciousness, and you focus, you develop your, you bhavana, you cultivate and develop your presence through the focus on the breath. And it's a very classic meditation. I'm glad it was helpful to you.
thank you, Diana. I don't see a raised hand. I think there might be a question in the chat.
Chat, yeah, I saw that. And then Laura has her hand up.
Yeah.
Can you read Rick's question to me?
Sure. I'm sure this will be touched in your conference tomorrow, but what do you make of the fact that, I'm trying to scroll down. Sorry, I'm having trouble scrolling.
Oh, here, I'll look. I'm sorry. I'm just sitting back here so happy.
What do you make of the fact that a technology, the internet, that was supposed to bring us together has instead been equally guilty of hardening our surrounding bubbles? As a result, it feels like there's less and less a sense of common ground. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, this is something that the people who have designed the technology, at the beginning, they only saw the upside of it. They thought, oh, Facebook will connect everybody. It'll be so cool. That's how it started. Nobody anticipated what has happened. Perhaps it could have been anticipated once the business models were established, and then the people who saw this early they just left. Tristan is unique in that he has really tried to bring attention to the harms, because there's so much pleasure and enjoyment in our devices that it's really hard it's hard to acknowledge the harms, unless you have a kid like a friend of mine does, who's completely addicted to the point where they have to go to like a special program to get deprogrammed. And this is not unusual in other countries too. You don't necessarily see the harm, like my grandchildren, they don't see the harm. They're just texting all day long and this and that, and it's pleasurable. So I think what is happening now, and that you can see in that documentary where Tristan stars, but a lot of the tech leaders, the people who developed this technology, are talking about, oh my God, what have we done? The word Frankenstein comes to mind, because it's not 100% under control. Let's just put it that way. So yeah, that's it. Everyone's trying to understand what to do. It's not clear, but we're looking at, one of the things that I feel we can all do is become informed and educated and realize that what comes up in my news feed is not the same as what comes up in Kathy's or Rick's. And so, Rick, you may feel you're doing your total due diligence, but the algorithms are dictating what you see. And that we're in these, silos of, and that's why some people, they are doing all their research and they are convinced that this election was rigged and a fraud. Anyway, we won't go into that, but thank you for that question. Laura.
Laura, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, Trudy. Thank you very much for your teachings, always. Yes, I'm very excited about tomorrow. I signed up as soon as I saw it. I have a 15-year-old boy who is enamored of his phone.
Of course.
And he he and his friends, I've interviewed his friends since last year, before COVID and now after, for a little documentary for myself and them, but they love being online school. Some of them, I'm not saying all of them, obviously.
Well, I think I should have said, Laura, actually, when I was talking with Rick, that it's not just enjoyment. Oh my gosh, in the pandemic, what would we'd be so isolated without it. There wouldn't be possibility of any school. Well, that's debatable, but tell me what they love about it.
Well, my son now, who I used to think was an extrovert, now considers himself introvert. And he and some of his friends, they're now, after time has passed on, saying they're a little bored, but they like being able to be on their computers at home. I mean, my son is like, I don't want to go back to school. And I'm thinking, I need you to have social interactions with people, you know, in person.
They're relieved to be free of the social pressure.
Yes.
My grandson felt the same way. Now he has come to the point where he's saying, and he's 16, so just a year older, where he's saying, I think if I, after all this time of not wanting to be at school, if I walked into school again, I think I would cry. But he means with happiness.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I don't know about mine.
Yeah, because I mean, it is, but yeah, I think they are relieved.
The other thing I wanted, I don't know, it's a question for sure that is occurring to me lately in conversations about politics with my son, is I feel like with the internet, what's the truth? How do we really find the truth? I mean, I can tell you what I believe, I can tell you what my gut reaction is, I can tell you what I do know about things, but
that's the issue right now. You've just put your finger on it. That is the issue. What do we believe? What is true? And that's why I wanted to do like a classic Vipassana insight meditation where we focus on this is the actuality of experience in this moment. This is present. This is true. This is actually the truth happening. Every moment is the truth happening moment in our perception that way. But yeah, it's a big question. And I'm not sure how to answer it. I hope that it will get asked tomorrow. In fact, I'm going to write to the co-founder of the Center of Humane Technology, Randy, who co-founded it with Tristan, and say, this is a question that we have to address. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
But that is exactly, Laura, what sort of motivated me to do this more precise kind of guided meditation this morning was that question.
Yeah, because Trudy, I was thinking, even as I'm sitting here meditating, I'm thinking, oh, like the sensations, I'm cold. So for me, the truth is it's cold. But someone sitting next to me, my son, who runs very hot, could be having the experience of being hot. And they're both true for each. So it's really very difficult to know. And you can, when you watch news, even when I'm watching so-called My Side, I can hear how they're really pushing one way. It's very difficult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. But I think there's a difference between you're hot, you're cold and he's hot. And because both of you, yes, you're grounded in different realities, but you can understand each other's reality. You can communicate and know. I know that I run cold and you run hot. I know that right now you're experiencing that it's too hot and I'm wanting to turn the heat on. Or do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Different. It's different. And the lack of communication, that's what we have now. There's not communication across these differences. And this is a segregation that goes beyond the segregation of racism. But it is a kind of segregation.
Yeah, for sure. Colette, I just saw you raised your hand. You can unmute yourself.
Yes, hi, and thank you so much, Trudy. I've been walking with a woman for about a month now, and I've been just going on and on and on about how I feel about politics, and she's just been dead silent. And then all of a sudden she tells me, you know, I voted for Trump. And what I've noticed about her is she can't put her finger, when I ask her, well, why did you, I'm really genuinely curious about why. And she cannot tell me why she voted for him. I said, can you name anything in the past 4 years that has changed for you, made better for you? And she can't really say. The only thing she can say is she's worried about us becoming a socialist nation. She's worried about, there was one other thing, but when you get really specific, she voted against Social Security for her. I mean, she's voting against her own health care, which she gets through Obamacare, and all of these things. So it's like, how can you be so wrapped up in just it's just the idea of Trump versus what she's going to get personally. And she gets her news feed from one particular arena. And, you know, I really struggled with, can I have this friendship? I mean, I very.
Yes, you must have this friendship. I mean, you really must have this friendship. It's really important. I'm glad you're walking with her. But I think, you know, I have had many of the same questions, Colette, and I even heard Robert Reich say in a Common Cause webinar a couple weeks ago that, and people are voting against their own interests, which is what you're talking about with her. But when I read the book, actually I didn't read it, I listened to it, the book Caste by Isabel Wilkerson, I came to a very different understanding of why people are voting for Trump. And it really helped me. And I recommend this book so highly. I've talked about it here before. And if you don't want to read it, I mean, listen to it, because what it turns out seems to matter most to people is their core identity as being at the top of the heap as white people. And now as women, we're already, we've dropped down. You know, we're not at the top because we're not men, we're not white men, but we're women and we live in patriarchy, and to achieve things, we have to work harder than the men, and we still get less recognition unless we're super smartly ambitious. And so, do you know what I mean? So, but still, we're way above any person of color. We're way above immigrants. We're way above, do you see what I mean? Like, and this is actually, well, listen to the book. She's a wonderful writer and she tells wonderful stories. And it just helped me understand, not feel good about, but understand that people are voting from their fear. And that's what you just expressed. Voting not for what they got that was good and they want it to continue. They're voting from fear. And fear is really a very powerful way for demagogues to reach people and what do you call them? Convince people.
Yeah. So yes, I decided, you know, I will continue the relationship, and I am still writing, you know, walking with her, and she has some health issues, and I took her to her hospitalization. I picked her up, and I'm hoping through little acts of kindness towards her, she might open to another.
Maybe you could be a little book club of two and read that book together and see what she thinks of it.
Yes. Well, on our walks, we can listen to it.
It's, you know, you can say to her, this book might be hard for you to read in some places because she did not vote for Trump, but it really, I think, helps understand what's going on in our country.
Yeah.
Or you might invite her to the event tomorrow where she can understand, you know, something about her news source and what that's the influence that has on her life. This is what I mean about being informed and educated.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And thank you.
Thanks, Colette. Trudy, someone's asking, sent me a private message what the name of the book is.
Caste, C-A-S-T-E. And she studies the caste system in India. She studies the caste system that was developed by the Nazis in Germany, who were very much inspired by American eugenics and American segregationist policies. And then she studies the caste system in America. And her name is Isabel Wilkerson, Wilkerson. Yeah, that's the book.
Thank you. And I think, do we have time for one more quick one? We have someone with a raised hand.
Okay, one more quick one.
Neil, quick question.
I guess just during the sit, I had this experience where I was feeling really calm, and then I had like a false alarm, and I had to get up, and I came back, and my entire meditation experience sort of changed. It was different. It wasn't as peaceful. It was just interesting how that shifted. And then before the meditation, I've been thinking about this family business problem in a nutshell, to be brief. And my brain has gone back to that. My mind has gone back to that.
Sure, because it's a problem.
Right.
Yeah, so it's natural that your mind will come back to it because your mind wants to solve the problem, right? The problem is the problem cannot be solved usually by just thinking about it or figuring it out.
Right.
That's not most of our I mean, I remember when I was young and I started meditating and I realized I don't have to figure it out because actually I can't. That isn't how it's going to get solved. It's going to get solved through my intuition and my creativity and insight and things that are enhanced by meditation. So the more you stick with it, with your meditation, you know, it's like people who, great scientists, they have their fabulous insights usually while they're doing something else. Maybe they're on a run, or maybe they're getting into the elevator, or maybe, but their mind is very attentive to the problem they're trying to solve. So the fact that your mind keeps coming back to it is not an issue. It's like, just if you can hold it in your consciousness without trying to figure it out, just saying, yes, this is here. And you can even ask, like, please show me a way to approach this. You're asking yourself, you're asking your wise self. And you're meditating and you're staying present and you're just, you know, you're acknowledging with all humility that this isn't something you've been able to solve yet, right?
Right. I'm kind of sensing like a chop wood, carry water kind of
Yeah.
dynamic in a way. Like maybe that's what I need to do, is go chop some wood and carry some water.
Yeah, but at the same time, you're also caring about this problem and you're holding it in your consciousness, and you're just letting it kind of turn over, and you may have an insight about, there may be some relational aspect to it. There usually is,
Yes.
you know, and that can come clear too. So I'm glad you asked that question, and we do need to stop. So I want us to sit for a moment, before we say goodbye for this week. So again, just sitting together and just letting the eyes gently close and just resting, relaxing, absorbing all that's been said and heard. We can just rest in this serenity of the self, knowing how to settle, at least until another distraction comes up. And we acknowledge our gratitude for the goodness of this practice, and we express it by this imaginative act of sharing the goodness of our practice with all beings everywhere. May all beings partake of the goodness of bhavana, May all beings experience happiness and peace. And just really feel this. Rand, will you ring the bell? Unmute. Unmute.
Trudy, I don't have a bell.
Oh, you.
Clark has the bell.
Oh. Ding. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry to put you on the spot, and I'm sorry to end. And hi, Bob. Everybody, you can unmute yourselves and say hi, goodbye, and look at
Hello. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
before you
Thank
leave,
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
And those of you who stay for breakout groups, Kathy will help you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
everyone.
Thanks, Trudy.
Thank-
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Trudy.
Thanks, Trudy. Thank you
Bye,
so much.
Kathy.
Bye.
For your breakout groups. Enjoy.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Pam. Bye.